Hello and welcome to another very special edition of Messi and Co. I am your host, Austin Robillard, and we have a stacked cast here today on the English side. Gian, Ashley, Trav, all here to cover the experience that was Sunday, July 16th, the Unveil, La Presentación, Sergio Busquets, and none other than Lionel Messi unveiled to the fans. And let me tell you, there is story after story in this one, and we're going to break it all down. We were all there. We all had very different experiences, which I think is awesome, but also not so awesome because there were some things that I wish everybody could have avoided, but Mother Nature said absolutely not, and you're going to go through it. It was quite the experience. It was quite the presentation. It was quite the event. All things aside, and you can tell just how proud of a moment it was for the city of Miami, for the club, for the owners, David Beckham, Jorge, and Jose Mas. And you could tell, Messi seems extremely happy to be here. Sergio Busquets happy enough to be here that he spoke English, which we'll get into as well. So much to be said for what happened. But first, Gian, Ashley, Trav, thanks so much for coming on. And let's go right to the beginning here. Gian, you were there the earliest. What time did you get there? How many people did you see? And, highlight a couple of things that you saw in your experience being there early on in the stadium.
Yeah, definitely. I got there pretty early. I got there around 3 p.m. And I got there and there were thousands of people there already. Thousands of people. They were set up with their food. They were singing. They were partying, waving flags, singing the canticos that the supporters usually sing. Everybody was having a blast. And I was surprised because it wasn't even just season ticket holders. We had people that it wasn't just people that had tickets to the event, but those people that had no tickets to the event, they were just showing up to party. That's what they were there for, to support, to party. And some of them were even looking for tickets, see if they can make their way in. But it was just a blast from the beginning. And I will say that, I was surprised. I thought I was getting there early, but I was talking to a few people there. They had been there from early in the morning. I even found out there was somebody that left Miami Beach around 4 a.m. I don't know if you guys got wind of that story. Took 3 buses and got there earlier. I think he was the first one that got there. He said he felt like Beckham had given them the keys to open the stadium for everybody. So people got there early. I know some of us got stuck in traffic. I was trying to avoid that, but definitely a blast. From the moment I got there, I think we experienced all types of weather in that 6-hour window. I got there and it was like Death Valley, 130 degrees. It felt like, to what we'll talk about, what felt later on like a storm in the middle of the Baltic Sea or something, with 60-mile-an-hour winds and thunder and lightning. So it was quite the experience from the beginning to end. So yeah, that's kind of how it was at the beginning.
Yeah, and transitioning from there, we met up with Alejandro, you and I, Gian, and we talked with some supporters group down by the green lot and down onto the turf fields that are right near the training facility. Ton of people, ton of partying, a lot of great smelling food, which made me so unbelievably hungry the entire time that I was there. There was so much excitement in the air, and everybody that you spoke to and everybody that you saw around you just seemed to have this energy about them, and it's so surreal to think that one person can bring this much excitement and enjoyment to not only a fan base, but to a community, to a city, to a country. Even when you're thinking about MLS as a whole, a lot of things that really can't go understated. And I think that it's rightfully one of the proudest moments that MLS and this city of Miami will ever have, especially in sporting history. It's insane. And to highlight the fact that you were there at 3:30 and you were beat to the punch by hours is insane. Yeah. Myself and Alejandro arrived around, I believe, 4:30, 4:45 ish. And even then, we walked up to the media line. I don't know if you guys saw, but the media line was as long as a gate entry line. It was absolutely insane how many people were lined up as media to go ahead and, cover this event. I've never seen anything like it. The only thing that we were expecting to be like it was, the Barcelona game last season. But even then, this was bigger. There was more people there to cover that event yesterday than there was at any time in Miami's history, pretty much. And, the tides are turning, things are changing. Well, let's get to the weather. And this is where I'm going to defer to Ashley and Trav, unfortunately, on this one. arrived a little bit later. What happened? I mean, because we saw the weather coming from the stadium when we were there. You could see a huge storm headed from the west. Which one of you arrived first? Give me a time, and then we'll go from there.
I pulled in at 5. That's
Okay.
when I pulled into the green lot.
I was in at I pulled into the lot at like 5:30. So, but also I think my experience was way less treacherous than Morgan. So you go first.
All right, go ahead, Trav.
Yeah. So basically, I pulled into the green lot at about 5. Hung out with the Green Lot Gang, the Siege, Black Herons United, all of them, and their massive tailgate. Got to watch Sergeant Siege smash through a table, as is tradition. And then we all saw the weather coming at 5:30. Pretty much everybody broke everything down, put everything away, and was like, all right, let's go head inside. I went, sadly, to gate 2. So my friends that I was with, my little brother and one of my friends, and then my a buddy that I met up with there, were all like, all right, let's go to gate 2. And I'm like, no, let's go to gate 3. Like, it's going to be less of a line and all of that. We didn't. We went to gate 2. Gate 2 probably had easily 1,000 to 1,500 people waiting to get in at it. And less than 15 minutes later, all hell broke loose. And the storm just came in with its full force, and they turned around, locked the gates, and said, all right, we can't scan machines and, put people through, metal detectors and all of that in the middle of this absolutely torrential rainstorm. Well, as many know, the weather only got worse. The wind picked up, the rain picked up, and what then followed was security backed off. They ran inside the stadium and went behind the locked gates. So people advanced to the gates. They no longer cared for the metal detectors that are outside of the gates. About 15 minutes later, there's still this big crowd of, 1,500 people. They managed to open the gate and allow themselves inside of the stadium. And at this time, all of these people then rushed inside the stadium. No ticket scanning, no security screening, nothing. And I was caught in the dead middle of this and basically got shoved inside of the stadium.
So your ticket never got scanned?
My ticket never got scanned. My friends' tickets never got scanned.
Mine either. Mine either.
I never went through a metal detector. I was never checked for anything that was on me.
Holy!
My sunglasses were stolen off the top of my head.
Oh no!
Wow!
Yeah, my $300 pair of Costas.
Oh God!
And yeah, I got pushed inside the stadium and then basically shoved right under the east stand with a bunch of other people, and that's where I spent until probably 7 o'clock when the rain finally started to die down again.
Oh my goodness. All right. So was there a little bit of a benefit then, Ashley, to getting there a little bit later and avoiding that mess that Trav just unraveled for us? Because you had to wait a little bit to get on out and move closer to the stadium, right?
Yeah. So my intention was to get there earlier. And then just the traffic got, worse and worse. And then you saw this ominous cloud coming that was just super dark. And I was like, oh no. And I was with my friend, and literally as we parked the car, it started to pour. And so we're like, we will stay in the car. And so we ended up having to be in the car for almost 2 hours. But, we weren't complaining because we were looking, and I was obviously seeing on Twitter unfold what Trav was having to deal with. And I was like, well, this was a very Inter Miami experience. So I was like, Messi is getting Inter Miami. The fans are getting Inter Miami. They're getting, not that Inter Miami let, security things like that happen, but the rain, the craziness, that's South Florida.
Indeed, it was South Florida. When I say that I don't know if I've seen rain like I did inside of that stadium before, I mean, it was swirling. It was not coming like this, and it wasn't even going sideways. It was literally like this inside of the stands. I have a video of it from the press box. It was one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen. I don't really know the physics behind that. Trav, you probably helped me out a little bit, but that was the rain. I don't know what hit us on that day, but it ruined some plans, and it also kind of made things a little better. And I want to get your guys' opinion on it, because there was supposed to be concerts beforehand. There was supposed to be a huge presentation of, Hispanic artists, Camilo, Ozuna, and more. Bresh, I think the DJ as well. And that was pushed because of the rain, obviously. Those events were supposed to transpire at 6:30. The Messi event in presentation, along with Sergio Busquets, wasn't supposed to happen until 8:30. I believe that Messi's entry time was actually set for 8:40. I heard that as well. And so everything had to move because of this storm. People were not necessarily inclined to stay after the presentation with the artists. I mean, what do you make of, just going straight into the presentation itself of Messi and Busquets? And do you think it benefited fans, out weather aside, to go ahead and get that out of the way first, or would you have liked to see the hype a little bit beforehand? Gian, I'll start with you.
Well, I think that, unfortunately, the whole weather issue did kind of put a damper on the whole experience. I think that it was going to be a really nice lead up to the Messi presentation. We heard that there was going to be concerts ahead of it. We heard there were going to be speeches, special guests, and all that. So I don't know how much of that was maybe canceled or taken out because of the weather, and just the fact that they wanted to move things along. I know that Kun Agüero was there. He's a big time friend of Messi. I don't know if he was going to speak. I don't know if the actual speeches were actually announced, but I feel like some of those might have been again canceled. And then even the Messi presentation and the Busquets presentation seemed rushed, right? I don't know if you noticed, but it seemed almost like as soon as Busquets stopped talking, like somebody was like, all right, yeah, we need you to go back in now. Messi's coming up. So all in all, again, I feel it was a little rushed. But despite that, I mean, the fans were having a blast. Everybody had a blast outside before. They were partying the entire time. Inside, we had a blast. The music was great. Some interesting choices of music when Messi came out. So, but ultimately, I say personally, I had a lot of fun. I just wish everything would have gone like it was supposed to. Again, just because the lead up, the concerts happening after, I think was a bit of a downer, just because it was late after what we'd gone through. Again, through the storms, the heat, and all that. I'm not sure how many people wanted to stay for a concert afterwards. I know that Ozuna couldn't make it. He apparently his crew was not able to make it because their flight was diverted because of the storm. So Ozuna wasn't there, and I'm sure the artists kind of felt that way too, looking into the stands and seeing that a lot of fans were leaving. But all in all, still a lot of fun. I think that Inter Miami did a great job trying their best to handle some of the situations that were going on. And what a test for that new security protocol. I mean, welcome to the big leagues, right? So other than that, yeah, just a lot of fun, and we'll see.
There was a time that this needed to be broadcasted, right? I mean, it was broadcasted to the world from Apple TV, and I think that they were pretty strict on their this out right now kind of protocol, because other than that, I think that Miami would have probably tried to get the hype built up a little bit more. Even then, I mean, you saw down in the stands, Kalen Kyle and Taylor Twellman for Apple TV were interviewing David Beckham and Jorge Mas, but the audio was not being presented to the actual fans inside the stadium. It was only on the broadcast, and I can't imagine that was part of the plans. If it was, I think it's a wrong move, but I think everybody would have loved to have heard Jorge Mas and David Beckham speak on the Apple TV broadcast. And I think that was definitely a possibility, but I think with all of the technical difficulties that they, endured throughout the entire presentation and the broadcast, with the weather and the rain and just water being everywhere, it was a little bit rough. And again, possibly rushed. I think that they just had to get going as soon as possible. And as the rain didn't even let up fully when this presentation started. But it didn't stop Jorge Mas, did it, Trav?
No, and, it definitely didn't stop, David Beckham either, who, there's the video. He took a slip on the stage and played it off wonderfully as, the soccer icon he is. But no, they weren't going to let the rain stop. There was basically a point in which Apple and MLS and Inter Miami said, all right, as long as we can safely pull this off and, there's no lightning or anything like that, we're going to do this. If we push the concerts to afterwards, so be it. If it's less frill than what we expected, so be it. We're doing this between 8:30 and 9:30, no matter what anybody says or what anybody wants. And I think we saw that. I think, the production obviously took a hit in, just the fact that we had this absolutely torrential storm come through. And at the same time, it now caused what they should have had, a 2-hour lead up, plenty of time to tweak the audio, anything like that. They now had a matter of, 15 or 20 minutes to do so.
Ready to transform your space into a masterpiece? Introducing Mosaics, your destination for stones and more. Mosaics is a family-owned business serving the community for over 20 years. With the best quality porcelain, ceramic tiles, and high-end mosaics featuring unique modern designs, Mosaics has everything you need. Dedicated customer service, wholesale distributors, and a passion for excellence. Make sure you visit mosaics.com today to turn your vision into a reality. Which is not a lot of time. It was a lot to put on, an event of this magnitude. And I think that they, given all the circumstances, at least getting Busquets and Messi out on the stage with the owners to present to the fans, I mean, that was a bare minimum they could have done. And I think they did a pretty good job of it. Ashley, what did you make of the actual presentation itself? Sergio Busquets, as I mentioned earlier, speaking in English. We had even the one David Beckham speaking in Spanish. I mean, did they deliver on the expectations for the actual presentation? Did you feel the excitement and the hype that you were kind of expecting?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that kind of, the consensus is that it wasn't exactly what they were going to do. I think they were going to even do more production. I imagine if you've seen the stage and everything in the pictures, it has like a long catwalk and then a square at the end. I think in an ideal world, that's probably where they would have had Messi and Busquets walk to so that they can wave to everyone. But what I was going to say earlier is, yeah, the rain, the torrential, it was difficult. Things kept getting delayed, etc. But when I was in the stadium in my seat, first of all, there was not an empty seat in the stadium, even after technically a 2-hour delay. The rain was coming. You didn't know what was going to happen. There wasn't an empty seat. And leading up with the DJ and the excitement, I mean, yeah, there were some issues with the audio, but I'll tell you what, I've been to a lot of live sports events. I've been to NBA, playoff games for the Heat. This atmosphere was insane, especially in the beginning, right? Leading up to Messi coming out. And it just shows you, with Apple TV, obviously there's been some big numbers floating around today. I don't know we don't know the full accuracy of them, but I think they're probably true in the sense that it was probably the most watched sports moment in the United States this year by far, which is crazy to say, and I think it's going to just keep going. So they have some things to fix, but just the taste of the atmosphere and what's to come for soccer in America, I think it's going to be pretty spectacular.
Absolutely. And the logistics behind all of it, they worked out what they could, and given all the circumstances. And kind of moving on from the presentation now, I think we covered it well. If you want to go ahead and look at our coverage over on Messi & Co., we were all there. We all covered it. Check out the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. You can find all of the content that was recorded all in one place, our on-the-street style interviews, Gian and myself talking in front of supporters, and some videos and photos from the actual presentation. Go ahead and check that out. If you missed any of it or you just want to relive the moment, go ahead and do that, or follow all of our Twitters. You'll be able to find them through the Messi & Co. Twitter account as well. Everything is there. Everything is there, highlighting all of what the experience was. But now I want to move into a little bit, as we wrap up the show here, into Friday, because Friday is the first match that Messi will play in. And, sitting in the stands, you guys, I mean, seeing the amount of people that were there, I saw the amount of media people that were there, and fans kind of just, the numbers are insane. I mean, it's not something that Miami has ever had to experience before. And they even opened up the capacity by adding those bleachers that ended up being a lot nicer than I originally imagined when I drove by on Commercial Boulevard a couple of days ago.
And they got the weather test yesterday.
And they did get the weather test, absolutely. And there are actual seats there. It looked like it was just going to be bleachers, but there were actual seats. The view seems nice from the corners. So what kind of are you expecting from both the business, logistics, and security side, and also the fanfare, Gian, when it comes to this Cruz Azul match on Friday, and even going into the Atlanta match on Tuesday?
Well, I think that the Unveiled, la presentación, was quite again, so what I said before, a test for everything logistics wise, right? I think that down from security to vendors, to even just the testing of everything that goes into putting on a production for Apple TV was all tested. And I think that they're going to learn from that experience. I think that Inter Miami really hasn't had something of that magnitude happen yet. And again, learning experience, I think they'll be ready for Friday. And the fans it's just going to be a continuation of what we saw, is what I think. I think it's just going to be a continuation. We're going to have a party before the game, and people they just can't wait. This is a moment we've been hearing about for years now. The rumors about Messi, signing, the anticipation has been a long time coming, and we're finally here to live that moment. A lot of people already got their Messi gear, their Messi jerseys. We've seen Messi jerseys on the streets for sale. It's just going to be, again, just a continuation of a party. And I think for me, one of the things I'm most looking forward to being there is seeing how they're going to utilize Messi. It's just that Messi is such a dynamic player. You can only guess what position or what functionality Tata is going to have him in, right? Again, he can play as a 10, he can play on the right wing, sometimes he's positionless. So that's, for me, one of the things, and I think a lot of fans are probably wondering, yeah, we got Messi. Let's see what he's going to do on the pitch. It's just exciting. And can you imagine if he scores a goal? Can you imagine how that stadium is going to explode? Oh my goodness. Wow, if he scores, I can't even imagine.
I don't think that the Messi chance would stop. If he scores, this would go on for maybe 10 minutes. Like I honestly don't know where they would draw the line in terms of just hailing Lionel Messi. Trav, let me go to you. This Cruz Azul match is a big one. I mean, it's kicking off a new competition, and Messi's at the forefront of it. I think there's only one other game kicking off at the same exact time, if I'm not mistaken. It's Orlando as well. How important is it for Messi to not only, just get on the field and, show what he can do, in terms of this level of play, but also play well, because this team needs a boost right now?
I think it's absolutely crucial for, Messi and, to the same extent, Sergio Busquets, since he'll also be available for selection, to get out there and hit that same level that they've been playing at in Barcelona and Paris. And, especially in a new tournament like this, where all you really need is one win to advance. If you get one win out of two matches that you play in the group stage, you should advance in this tournament and advance to the knockout rounds. And Messi and Sergio Busquets are going to be key to that. They're Miami's two big additions that no other team in the league can compare to. And they're going to have to step on the field and have an impact right away. And to a lesser extent, they're going to really have to use this match to begin to understand MLS and basically CONCACAF soccer, because it's a whole different world. Our referees are admittingly a little bit less poor. We don't know how the Mexican teams are going to come into this competition and how they're going to play. Are they going to play with the normal chip on the shoulder they play with? Or they're in preseason. Are they going to take it a little bit more lightly? So, it's going to be a big learning experience, but it's also going to be crucial that Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets both have an immediate large impact on the squad.
All of us, Gian, Trav, Ashley, we're going to be there on Friday giving you the coverage. And Ashley, before we end the show, I want to ask you, given what you saw on Sunday night and the excitement from the fans, how does an actual game rather than a presentation compare? Do you think that people should expect more from what's about to happen in terms of fan excitement and how many people are going to actually be there, or is it going to be on par?
Well, I think like for me personally, I think it's going to be more exciting because you're not just getting a couple minutes of him and, wondering what he's going to say, what they're going to do. You're going to see, I imagine at least 70 minutes of him playing. And I think that you're going to also just immediately see a higher level of soccer because for the other 9 players, maybe not Drake, so maybe the other 8 players on the field with him and Sergio this is an audition. This is showing like how, because we know who's going to be playing, and so it's about showing your composure, your level of skill, your ability to be a part of the team. And so yeah, I think the energy is going to be insane. I think people are going to be excited to see what it looks like when because you remember the last 2 years he still had Neymar and Mbappe, and while this is a crazy sentence to say, for the last 2 years, he technically really wasn't the number one option star orchestrator, for every single game. And that he will be here. And so, it's going to kind of, just like we saw in the World Cup, awaken everyone's memory of, I think what happens when he is running the show.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely exciting just for him to put on the jersey and to step on the field with lace boots playing under the Inter Miami name. I think that there's so much to look forward to. And as we wrap up the show here, I encourage everybody to tune in because this is going to be an experience for the next 2.5 years like no other in MLS. I think it's going to completely outshine what Zlatan did here. Actually, no, it's going to outshine what Zlatan did here and what David Beckham did here. This is undeniably going to be one of the best experiences in sporting history for the United States of America. And I think that the excitement is absolutely warranted. For Gian, Ashley, and Trav, and for myself here on Messi & Co. as part of 5 Reasons Sports, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to all of our coverage of the Unveiled, La Presentación. We will have everything coming for you this week. Training tomorrow morning. If you're watching this on Monday night, I will be there. You'll be able to get coverage, and there will be a press conference at some point this week. We don't know when, and that's all in the lead up to Messi's debut, as you can see below, on Friday versus Cruz Azul. Thank you so much for listening, everybody, and we'll see you here on Messi & Co. next time.